Hope that your Saturday is off to a great start. It is not all that cold outside. In fact, actually rather pleasant. And so, what a good start to the day. Hey, we are in day 5 of this treasure hunt through the book of Proverbs, just trying to seek out what it is that God would want us to seek, which is His wisdom, His ways, to see how He wants us to live. The book of Proverbs has 31 chapters. The month of March has 31 days. So, each day we're inviting you to spend a little time reading through whatever day it is, that chapter of Proverbs, and just seeing what it is that God would teach us, show us, grow us through there. And so today in Proverbs chapter 5, we get this long conversation, again, from father to son, is really the way that most of the Proverbs is set up. It's not meaning that it's not to a daughter. It doesn't mean that it's not from a mom. It's just the way that it was written from Solomon, kind of speaking from what he's known, what he's learned, what he's become aware of, and just making that known to someone that's younger and saying, hey, learn this, apply this. Now, ironically enough, especially chapter 5 of Proverbs is one of those do as I say, not as I do type things. Solomon warns against adultery. He warns against the temptation of heading down the street to the adulterous house. And yet he himself got himself into so much trouble because of the many wives that he had. And that doesn't mean that the advice isn't solid. What it means is that in our humanity, it's hard sometimes to be faithful to that. But what really got me thinking today was the phrase, as I read through Proverbs 5, at the end of your life. Here's the way that it's written. Again, there's lots of caution and lots of encouragement in this chapter to avoid the adulteress, that it's going to not go well for you, that you should enjoy the wife of your youth, all those things that point to faithfulness and fidelity. And Solomon speaks these words, though, that really just stuck out to me today. This is what he says. It says, at the end of your life, this is verse 11 of Proverbs 5, at the end of your life you will groan when your flesh and body are spent. You will say, how I hated discipline, how my heart spurned correction. I would not obey my teachers or turn my ear to my instructors, and I was soon in serious trouble in the assembly of God's people. And that phrase, the end of your life, just kind of caught my attention, just grabbed my interest. Because a lot of us don't really think about the end when we're in the middle of something. Boy, this sounds fun. This looks good. This feels right. And we jump in. And then we get done with it. We're like, oh, man, yeah, that didn't work out the way I wanted, or I didn't think that through. Both you and I could tell stories of times that we were a little too impulsive, right? That we maybe went down a road without thinking about the consequences of what was at the end of that road. And as a result, there's consequences to that. Once upon a time, I had a conversation with someone who, I wouldn't say it was a deathbed confession, but it was definitely an end of life, making peace with their actions conversation. And they had hidden a secret from their family their entire lives. They had been unfaithful to their husband. They had engaged in behavior that was so disappointing and debilitating to them. And for years, for decades, they had carried this guilt with them. And that phrase, as I read that today, I couldn't help but be drawn back to that conversation many years ago now, and just wonder about that. Of had they read Proverbs 5 and applied it, had they avoided that situation, had they been faithful to the spouse of their youth, maybe they wouldn't have spent decades in agony and pain. At the end of your life, you will groan when your flesh and body are spent. You'll say how I hated discipline, how my heart spurned correction. I guess the encouragement to me from this is simply to begin at the end, or to have the end at the beginning, right? To think through our actions and our decisions, to realize that all that we do has consequences. And so we be wise about that. In the area of sexuality, absolutely. But really in all areas of our life, right? That we need to think of the end instead of just rushing in at the beginning. Now, what I want to do, I want to read it from the Message again today. I really found this to be encouraging. And again, the Message is a version of the Bible. It is a paraphrase of the Bible, meaning that it's not a literal translation, but rather someone's thoughts of what the scriptures say. But I like the way that this says it. And again, I think it's just a good encouragement to us. It's a reminder for us on this Saturday morning to begin with the end in mind. This is what it says here. Again, this is 11 through 14. It says, you don't want to end your life full of regrets, nothing but sin and bones, saying, oh, why didn't I do what they told me? Why did I reject a disciplined life? Why didn't I listen to my mentors or take my teachers seriously? My life is ruined. I haven't one blessed thing to show for my life. And I just sadly know that I've sat with people, I've talked with people who could say that that was the end of their life. The good news is that doesn't have to be the end. I know that some of us that might watch this video are going, yeah, but I've already, or I did, or man, there's so much hurt, there's so much pain, there's this relationship I destroyed, there's this decision I made, there's this mistake I can't take back. And listen, we can't go back and begin again, but we can, by the grace of God and through the grace of God, we can redeem the mistakes that we've made. What I mean by that is not that we can undo the harm that we've caused, that we can undo the bad choices that we've indulged in, but what we can do is we can redeem them for God's glory. Someone younger than you maybe is ready to walk down that same road, and you can encourage them. We can learn from our mistakes. We can confess our sins. We can ask God to use that for His glory. And man, over and over and over again, He will. That if we're breathing, there's still a chance to end well. There's still a chance to finish the race good. The Apostle Paul, right, who was probably one of the most faithful, most knowledgeable, most committed Christ followers ever, speaks of his own life saying, I was the worst of sinners. He participated in the murder of Christians, and yet God allowed his ending to be redeemed. He couldn't undo the harm that he caused. He couldn't pull back the pain that he inflicted, but instead God allowed him to be redeemed by the grace of Jesus Christ. And I think the same can be true for us. So today, may we begin with the end in mind. May we be wise. May we pursue wisdom as we go on this treasure hunt together. Check out Proverbs 5. It's full of good stuff. It maybe will make you think. And again, let's make sure that we're seeking what God would want us to seek, which is the treasure we're seeking, and that's wisdom. Wishing you all nothing but the best. Have a super awesome Saturday. Love y'all. Peace out. Deuces.